So as a holistic health coach, one of our core philosophies is no system in the body works in isolation. Therefore, you would never treat anything in isolation. So body, mind, gut immunity, your ability to produce neurotransmitters, diet, sleep, recovery, environment, all these different aspects are connected. So often I think in the West, we specialize, we go to uni and we isolate. We become a physio, we become a chiro, we become a dietitian, a personal trainer, whatever it may be, and we isolate. Yet, as a good practitioner, in my opinion, we need to do the opposite. We need to integrate and look at a holistic picture. So one of the things I like to do and tell our practitioners to do is, if you've ever seen the movie Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Arnold walks into that bar, he's a robot on Earth, and he just looks and he's just scanning everyone. So he's scanning, it says like 5'11", 183 pounds, body temperature, hair, color, eye, mood, all these different aspects. So that's how you want to, and how I look at the human body when someone comes through. So to give you an example, if someone's coming through in a gym environment, I'm looking at their posture. I'm looking at their ankles, the stability of their knees, how their spine sits when it's inactive, how their neck is positioned, how the shoulders roll in, and then I'll look at their breath. And then I'll look at you can see what's going on in the mind and the nervous system by their eye contact. Are they relaxed? Are they eyes going everywhere, can't make eye contact, shallow breath, their sympathetic nervous system's firing. And then when you get to look at different behaviors, what they're wearing, maybe their diet, you're going to see, okay, immune system's going to be struggling there, they're going to be exhausted, very weak. So we're able to look at all these different factors very, very quickly and be able to just, almost like a mechanic in a car, if you go get a roadworthy certificate, they're looking at the wheel alignment. Okay, they're all out, let's fix them. Okay, we're out of oil, let's up that. We need new brake pads, etc., etc. So when we start to see the body like that, that's the difference, in my opinion, of being a great practitioner versus someone that just goes through the motions. And what I train a lot of people, because we do mixed modalities, we train a little bit of everything. We're looking at the body from the lens of Pilates, yoga, mobility, animal flow. And, one of the biggest questions I get from our practitioners is, what do we do in yoga? And there's nothing wrong with that question, but how I like to see it is very, very differently. I'm not worried about how yoga see or do things necessarily. I'm looking at how I want to fix the body, mind, spirit, energy, chi, prana, whatever you want to think about, and what aspects of yoga can help make that change. What aspect of Pilates can I use to make that change? So I've got the end goal, the end goal in mind, should I say. And if the end goal in mind is for everything within the body to be calibrated perfectly, that's the goal. And we're just using yoga, Pilates, mobility, strength and conditioning, knee over toe, 90-degree training, eccentric training. All these different elements are really just being used for the end in mind, where I feel like a lot of people fall into the trap of being too obsessed with yoga, or this is what they do in mobility, when we need to look at it from a broader perspective. I mean, just seeing a physio and doing physio exercises is not going to be enough to bulletproof and prevent injuries of, say, the shoulder. It's great for rehab, it's great for preventative, sure, but it's not the full picture. It's not until we integrate all the elements that we can create a bulletproof shoulder. So I want to give you guys on this episode a few pointers and we'll go through. Like, we train the body, mind, state, spirit, and diet. But let's go from the start. When someone comes straight into their movement practice, the first thing I'll say to everyone is, and you can do this exercise at home, is take a nice deep breath, a relaxing breath. Now, what 99% of people do is the most stress creating breath on the planet. There, which is almost creating like it's a version of hyperventilation, very tense through the neck, chesty, not a deep breath, not nasal, and a shallow exhale, which is going to trigger a sympathetic response in the body. So we've just asked them to do a nice relaxing breath, and most people tell me everything about their breathing patterns in that one exercise. So for me, it will be about retraining you to keep the shoulders still when you breathe, not going up and down, but breathing laterally. Let the ribcage flare, expand laterally versus up and down, chesty, tense, poor oxygen exchange, mouth breathing. It's a hyperventilation style breath, basically. Not as bad, but that's the first thing to look at. And learning to breathe nasally, learning to fill the lungs, to activate the dantian, or the belly as we call it, the belly breathing, and to slow down the exhale. When we slow down the exhale, your whole personality will change. You'll be much more calm, you'll be much more relaxed. You won't be as triggered. You won't be as aggressive. You'll be able to handle stress much better. So these breath strategies, very simple ones, something as simple as retraining your exhale to be nice and long, is going to change your whole personality and the way your leadership, how you manage stress. And just by being able to slow down the inhale and exhale, often people think that would be less energy, but you're actually going to create more oxygen exchange, more energy production by going slow. Fast breathing is not good. We think, you can activate the fight or flight response in the body by doing that, but for overall longevity and sustainable energy that doesn't crash, we want nice, smooth, slow breath. So nice, smooth, slow breath would be like having a nice, steady blood sugar level with your diet, where a lot of people are running on empty, and it starts with the breath. And the breath's doing many things. It's controlling what nervous system is active, either the fight or flight or the rest and digest. So if you've got a nice calm breath, as the name suggests, you're going to recover better protein synthesis, better digestion, better immune health, all from just the breath. All functions in the body are going to improve from a calm breath. That's just that. Then we're going to improve oxygen exchange, which we need for everything, okay? And if you go into the woo-woo, we can talk about chi and prana, life force. Now you're going to actually circulate life force through the body and access a new energy source that maybe you haven't had access to before. And you can see why people lack energy. They've got a shallow breath, not getting a lot of oxygen. They're not getting a lot of circulation. We won't go into nitric oxide and all of that in this video, but you're stressing out the body. Your fight or flight is not a sustainable energy system. It's short-lived. It's designed to run from a tiger, get away, and relax. We're not designed to be in fight or flight all day, every day, and most people are. Most people, from the coffee, the tension they're in, the way their body's tense, their mind's tense, they're agitated, they're rigid, they're trying to force everything, the breath's rigid. So we're really short on energy because all energy systems are just burning out, and then we're full of inflammation in our diet. So the body is having to drain its whole immune system just to fight the constant inflammation and keep the body from getting seriously ill. So it's no wonder people are tired. And then on top of that, the diet lacks nutrition. It lacks micro and macronutrient balance. A lot of it's artificial. A lot of it's full of chemicals. A lot of it affects the microbiome in our gut, and that stresses out that system as well. So is it really any wonder that most people are struggling with anxiety, stress, depression, lack of energy, fatigue, sore, tight, they sit all day, no blood flow? It's amazing the body is as resilient as it is, and people survive as well as they do for how poorly the average person looks after their body, and not necessarily knowingly. It's just kind of a byproduct of modern living, unfortunately. So there's a couple of tips for the breath anyway, going through that very, very quickly. There's 100 different breath strategies that we can train, but the main thing to think about is starting to do more nasal breathing, slow in, slow out. That's the speed. You start to anchor that down and you'll be in more flow. Try doing it with your yoga. One of my favorite things to do in yoga is do the opposite of yoga breathing, which is breathing with the movement. Is I try and go as slow nasally as I can for all my yoga flows. And it's just this weird new flow state that I'm being able to tap into, this new control, awareness. You're very grounded. It's like you see things in more 3D. You're more aware. So try that at home if you're into your yoga. Try nasal breathing through different flows and not doing the traditional yoga breath. I really got inspired to do that by watching a lot of the UFC guys. You watch Adesanya and these guys, they nasal breathe throughout a whole fight. The tension of a fight, they can stay nasal. We're getting wrestled to the ground, nasal breath. Incredible. So I'm like, if they can fight the world's most deadly athletes and nasal breathe, I'm pretty sure I can get away with doing some yoga with the nasal breath. So try that one at home. And then the most important thing to look at is just looking at the body's joints. Do the ankles collapse? Do the knees collapse in? Does the hip flexors have any strength? Is the core strong enough to actually withhold a nice neutral state spine during standing, during exercise, during movement? Or does it collapse and we get that overarching back and all the energy sits on our lower back? We hear the whole term strengthen and lengthen. I really like that. because you should never strengthen without mobility and lengthening or stretching, and you should never just do lengthening. Just doing stretching in yoga is not by itself, if there's no strengthening component, that yang component, that is not good for functionality and injury proofing the body. And there is a criticism of yoga that you can do too much of the soft stuff, and your joints need a certain amount of stiffness to prevent injury and be highly functional. So there's some things to think about. But whenever I'm strengthening a joint, whether it's the shoulder joint, whether I'm pressing, pulling, pushing up, it's all around this joint, I'm also going to work on the lengthening of it, the releasing, the yin, the decompression of the compression. So I'm always wanting to create a yin and yang balance. And obviously pressing is heat producing, it's compression, impact, tension, resistance. And I always want to be releasing it, decompressing, de-stressing, relaxing, finding softness in it as well. So when you start to see the joints like that, and you'll start training a lot more single leg, because you'll understand that in a double leg squat, a double leg deadlift, you can hide all your imbalances around your knees, ankles, hips, core. Could be lifting completely out of balance, one side dominant, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll start to make that shift, and that's how I can very, very quickly, in one session with someone, I'll fix their breath. I mean, it'll take some repetition because I'll go back to old habits, obviously. You can't just click the fingers once and make miracle changes. It's a practice over time. But we can teach them to stabilize all the joints when they move, from when they walk, lunge, squat, plank, push up, row, do absolutely anything, how to have a proper contracted core, have everything active around all the major joints so you don't get injured and don't get sore. And then, of course, I won't do the exercises on this video. We're going to explain the videos for that, but you want to get every joint moving well in all the ways that joint can go. Shoulder can go forward, it can go back, it can get abduct, it can move laterally, it can twist, it can roll, it can move on an angle. So I want to move the shoulder joint through all the different planes of motion, not just stuck in the rigid stuff, although they're important. So they're the things I look at within the human body. Once you get the base right and you rebuild the frame of the body on a house of bricks, most people's joints and bodies and their workout routine, I would say, it's built on a house of cards. It's the Three Little Pigs. It's the house built of sticks. And we want to change that and build the base of concrete around the ankles, knees, hips, deep core, shoulders. You could say the wrists and the neck as well. We want to solidify them, build them in cement, rock solid joints. Make sure they're nimble as well. And now we can focus on the fun stuff. Now we can get more athletic. Now we can work on our speed, our power, strength, muscle growth, endurance, all these different aspects to be to be more functional in everything we do. Whether you want to CrossFit, box, surf, ski, skydive, play with the kids, whatever it is, you want to be able to do that better and better. And there's a great video that came out today of Tom Brady faster at 46 than he was at 20 over. I think it was the 50-meter dash, 50-yard dash, which is incredible. I mean, he's 46 and he's not playing this year. So that was pretty cool to see what the body is capable of. And far too often we attribute aging to age, where it's actually it's just time under poor movement pattern, poor contraction, lots of inflammation, lack of recovery, lack of care. So we are prolonging age. It's being led by the elite athletes from Kelly Slater, LeBron, Djokovic, Ronaldo. All these guys are redefining aging and what's possible, which is creating a really exciting wave for the everyday person to be able to live life to the max until 60, 70, maybe, who knows, maybe later, which is super exciting. So that's how I like to see the human body on a very basic level. But it's also important to work the mind. And what's interesting is a rigid mind, a rigid body. It'll show up in the body, okay? And a lot of people start doing yoga. They do a lot of hip work, pigeon work. They'll release a lot of different emotions. And, I've seen a few cry sessions on the mat when people have really released the hips. So a lot of emotions and different things, energy, not just emotions, but anger, frustration, tightness, rigidity in our thinking, stubbornness will show up in the body. And normally, stubborn body, stubborn mind. We can learn a lot by watching someone's body and go, ooh, that's going to be pretty reflective of the personality. And in the opposite, some females that are super flowy and loose, guess what their personality is in life? Often they can lack that masculine edge and that groundedness and structure, and they're kind of just getting flowing around with the wind, which is not always a good strategy either. You need the balance. So working the mind, one of the biggest things I like to do for the mind, I think it's super relevant because of social media. Since social media become relevant in sort of early 2010-ish, around that sort of mark, depression rates have gone through the roof. That data is super obvious. And so you got to ask why. And the big thing is constant comparison. And what the problem with comparison is, we're looking out, and now we challenge and question our current situation. So my first rule, and I struggle with this the most mentally, is the first rule to free your mind is accepting what is. Accept reality. And as a practitioner, it's my job to see where people are fighting what is. Like, I should be here. I should be married by now. I should have kids. I should have that job. I should be on 200K. I should. And that word should is a dangerous word, because it's normally because you're seeing the highlight reel of everyone else, you're minimizing yourself and putting them on a pedestal. And that is a recipe for depression, anxiety, not being in the moment. And I suffer from it as well. It's probably the big thing I challenge with most. I say to everyone, I go, diet's so easy, the body's easy, movement's easy, biohacking's easy, systems are easy. What's difficult is the mind. It's a tough one to overcome. But the first one is to accept reality, embrace what is, and go with the flow. Make the most of each scenario. I mean, I've got tattooed here, amor fati, which is Latin for just embrace all the elements, embrace your fate, all the elements, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, embrace it all. And that's the only way you can do life, is not play victim, not get down, not get depressed. And I mean, I'm not perfect. This is the thing I struggle with the most. Comparison is the theft of the now, of happiness, of joy. And that's what social media has created. So accepting reality, accepting what is, and then also being aware that we are seeing an imbalance in life. So going back to basics, back to the now, accepting what is, making the most of the opportunity, being grateful for what we do have rather than focus on what we don't have, all the obvious cliche things. The next one is to not judge others. So often we have a lot of judgment on ourselves, which is what we're talking about, and we've got to let go of that and just be. And another tattoo I've got, what's under the watch, just be, is to not be thinking outside, forward, back, what I should be, just be in the moment. But also when we're not judging, it means not judging others as well, because we can be very quick to have conflict with everyone in our life. And if you look at most conflict, whether it's family conflict, it's relationship conflict, it's workforce conflict, it's all based on judgment. That person shouldn't have done that. And normally these judgments are seen in an imbalanced state. And so one of our processes is, when people have conflict with others, is to see where there's an imbalance. Okay, so you could say, my partner's lazy. Okay, there might be some truth to that, but let's go through all the points where they're not lazy, where they're super helpful, where they're super supportive and hardworking. And now we start to neutralize the emotion, and we can start to let go and break free. Then we start to ask some more compassionate questions. We've got a whole process for this, but we'll say, is that person doing the best they can for where they're currently at? And then we start to see the lens not through judgment, but through compassion, and go, yeah, this person's been, I don't know, maybe seriously ill, or who knows what's happened in their world. We'll never truly know, but we're going to have to accept that yes. And the answer is always yes. Anyone I've ever asked that question to, and we go through this healing process, and we're talking about someone they're judging, and we ask, are they doing the best they can? The answer is always yes. So now we come from a place of balance. We come from a place of compassion. And then another one, we got multiple questions, but I like to ask, where's the divine order in this? Where's the growth? Where's the opportunity lying? What growth is this forcing within you? And that's another way to see it and break through a lot of these tensions, these beefs that people have with each other that are totally unnecessary. If we're not just because in the emotion, we're so caught on the self, we're so heightened with, we don't see the balance of reality. We see the negative side way too much. We have zero compassion because we're triggered, and we don't see the divine order because we're just so in the moment, we can't see the forest for the trees. Okay, so that's what we like to work with the mind. Obviously, working with the mind as well, we need to work a meditative state. The social media has created way too much noise for the human mind, so we need to rest it. We need to spend multiple times per day in silence, in nothingness, in a flow state if you can. And then your breathing is going to help the mind with that a lot as well. And also your diet is going to play a big factor. If you're deficient in a lot of minerals and nutrients, your body's not going to be able to produce the neurotransmitters it needs to be happy, to be inspired, to be healthy. So it's all connected. Your environment is huge. Being outdoors, I notice a massive shift. As soon as I'm back outdoors, the mood just elevates. Everything's much better. So there's so many factors. Everything's connected, as we said. There's multiple highways connecting everything within the body. And you just want to do your best to get them all right. And then another thing we work really, really closely on is spiritual alignment, which is redefining the true self, the true spirit. Spirituality has so many different aspects and philosophies within it. But for us, what we use is spiritual alignment, figuring out who we really are, who's the authentic true self, living in our heart, living in our spirit, untainted, unprogrammed from society. Who's the character? What are their identity? Or what's the identity? What are their traits? What are their values? What are their skills? What are their passion? When all the noise is peeled back and influences from others, and we've just got the self in a meditative, inspired, healthy, happy state, who rises? That's what I would say is spirituality to me, because the greatest gift that we can give the world, in my opinion, is our true spiritual higher self. And unfortunately, not many of us spend a lot of time there and get to live it. So that's why we've got to peel back the layers of the onion, get everything right, remove bad habits, bad diet, bad people, negative thoughts, judgment, attachment, all these things that keep us rigid, stuck, angry, out of flow, out of spirit. And when we peel them back, we can start to, the true self can rise. So we've got a lot of exercises we do within that, and making people on path, inspired, in spirit, inspired. My favorite word is everything should be inspired work, because it's in spirit. And then, the last thing we really do with our biohacking is, most people are stressed and anxious, in my opinion, because their life is just an unorganized mess. I mean, you could give some people's schedule to a Buddhist monk, and they would be stressed out because it's just so unorganized. It's chaos. They're always late. They've got no to-do list. They've got no tasks. They've got no planning. They're not assigning time for the things they love. So they're always stressed out. They're always angry because they're not living in flow. And on that topic, one of the biggest things to live in flow is to actually do things that you love and reintroduce that to your life and schedule it, because you can literally get caught being busy, battling finances, work, family, kids, and 5 years have gone by and you haven't enjoyed the ride. You haven't enjoyed anything. You haven't done what you loved. You haven't grown. You haven't evolved. You haven't been happy. You haven't enjoyed yourself. And what's that going to do for others? So sometimes you've got to take care of yourself before fixing everyone else or looking after everyone else, and be a little bit selfish to be selfless. So that's one of the things we train our practitioners to do. So what we're doing is just looking at the whole landscape of someone's life, getting the diet right, removing inflammation that's keeping them sick, damaging their brain, their gut, absolutely everything. If I had one tip for everyone with diet, other than the obvious, don't overeat and get all your nutrients, is remove inflammation causing foods from the diet. Your body just can't handle it. It's not designed to be under constant stress. The inflammatory response is immune response. So when you're always causing inflammation, which is most people's every meal, every time you work out, even though a certain amount of inflammation is good, so you're literally triggering your body to think it's sick all day, every day. Your body's fighting bad food all night, drink, sleep. So the body's just always under attack. It's like, if you had a bunch of soldiers that never got rest and were just always fighting, and we'll call those soldiers the fighters of your immune system, bacteria, illness, how well are they going to function? How well are they going to function after days and weeks, months, years on end of not getting a rest, because they're just constantly fighting inflammation, stress, bad chemicals, bad gut bacteria, things that affect the microbiome in our gut. I mean, it's we put our bodies under so much stress. So we need to let go of the mind. We need to release the mind and let that rest. We need to let the immune system rest, the whole body, the nervous system rest, not always go, go, go. We need to just let ourselves go, relax, enjoy, turn off the phone, go surf, tennis, golf, whatever you're into, write, sing, and just be, and just enjoy. When we let go, and let go of the breath is a big one as well. And you can connect the breath to the physical body and let go. You can connect the breath to the mind and let it go. You can connect the breath to your energy systems and let it go, and just let it relax. So another tip, if I can give you on this call, is just to let go of the breath, breathe into the mind, let the mind go, let it stop thinking, stop forcing, stop planning, stop eating junk food all day, every day. Give the body a rest, give the mind a rest, give the heart a rest, give the nervous system a rest, give your life a rest, give everything a rest. And you'll be amazed what happens and what can cultivate that energy, breathe properly, that chi, that life force can start to cultivate within ourselves again, and we can rise up and start to flower again and rise into our true self, our true spirit, our love, our light, all that cliche, but it's very, very true. But we need to rest. We need to stop this burnout culture. We need to stop comparing. And when we just let go, things can just grow and life can get good again. So that's the end of the little podcast. Hopefully there's a few golden nuggets there for you. Till next time, have a great day.